My name's Shonda Brandt-Larsen, and I'm the host for Motherhood Unplugged 2.0. Motherhood Unplugged 2.0 basically started as 5 years worth of research. And that 5 years worth of research was looking at what makes your future child successful. Success being happiness, cognitive ability, perseverance, leadership. And fundamentally what came in was the key difference that mothers make. Fathers came up in one place, which was cognitive ability, but mothers came everywhere, including sense making. And the reason that I brought in Mia, who's the founder of Pragmatic Mums, is, well, a couple of things actually. So Mia actually she's a role model for me as well. She founded her own company after Harvard. So as a role model, you very much have been able to live your passions and bring that into the world. Two, you've actually then role model working at home, being a work at home mum, but bringing that parenthood and focus on your children and your education. So I really wanted to bring that into the conference in terms of how we as parents are responsible for the education of our children. And then three, in terms of how you bring literature into children's lives. Because in terms of sense making, that influence of the mother and that influence of literature is critical to their future happiness and success. And I know, Mia, you have 2 children yourself.
Yeah, I actually have 3.
3. Oh yes, 3. Sorry. So you have 3. You have 3 children, and I think you had a journey that you went on to from when your child was falling quite slightly behind at the beginning of in their school life, right?
Yeah. So my oldest actually was the one that kind of got me blogging. When she was in 1st grade, it was really unfortunate, but her teacher was just chronically ill. And so we literally had substitutes for substitutes. And in addition, it was like one of those combined grades. So it was kindergarten and 1st grade. So because she was a 1st grader, though, I really needed to, like master curriculum. She just wasn't getting, there's huge chunks of curriculum that just, wasn't covered. Yeah. And so the parents of the 1st grade, we didn't really figure it out until like April. And our school year ends in June, so we're like, oh my God, we're so behind. And so we kind of went into this panic mode of 1, trying to figure out what the gaps were, and then 2, trying to figure out how to fill in the gaps at home, because there just wasn't enough time in the school year for the new great substitute teacher to fill it in. And so I literally had to go to every mom I knew who was a teacher and research and figure out, like, what can you do if your child is not reading at grade level, or she's missing a lot of math curriculum. And then just in figuring it out and trying a lot of, different programs, then the other parents in the class were like, what is the phonics program you're using with Zoe? Like, can I get a copy of that? And then I shared it with them, and then I just started sharing it on a blog, and that's how Pragmatic Mom was created. And I think just because my child was, like, she was, it's funny, because now she's a senior about to go off to college, but she didn't like to perform. And so getting her to read out loud was really difficult, because it felt like she was performing, but there was no way for me to know how she was reading unless she read out loud. And so kind of the literacy, the quest for literacy and reading, and how to, get her actually reading, came about because of that. And so I literally researched, what are the best, picture books written in the last 10 years, and I would go to the library 3 times a week and bring home, 100 picture books. And because I had her little sister and her little brother, picture books was the perfect way to read to all 3 of them, keep them all entertained. And so we just blew through 100 books a week, and it really brought me back to oh my God, the best books, the ones that I read as a child are still great, and there's so many new ones that I never read because I just hadn't read picture books in so long. And so that sort of became the quest to share what the best books were, because then my friends would be like, what are the best, what picture books are you guys enjoying? And they would be like, oh my God, that was such a good book. And then from there, the leap, a few years later, was to realize, there just weren't enough diversity books out there that represented every child. Sure. Even though there was actually a fair amount of, Asian like there was a renaissance. There was children's books had a lot of I mean, compared to when I was a child, like there were literally 0 Asian characters in any book I read, chapter book, biography, picture book, let alone someone that was half Japanese, half Chinese, which I am, or my children, which are quarter Japanese, quarter Chinese, and half Korean.
Yeah.
And so that put a big focus on where is the diversity, and that led me to found the Multicultural Children's Book Day with Valerie Boudère, who's also a blogger at Jump Into a Book.
So actually, it was your personal experience has created this most amazing site, but it's also the uniqueness of your child, because you feel that you put it into someone's uniqueness in terms of not every child wants to read out loud. So how do you adjust to how they want to read or how they want to live? But also you've also included the representation, because what we see, read, do needs to also be culturally attuned, so that you have these representative role models as well. So you've brought all the 3 together in terms of what has evolved in Pragmatic Mums.
Right, because the thing is, as I was just learning about literacy, that the child actually doesn't have to do the reading. Like, it's fine for the parent or an older sibling to read. They get the same benefits as reading themselves. And I also found that picture books were like a much richer experience than, say, early chapter books, which, at my school, the kids feel like I can't read unless I can read a chapter book. So they immediately jump into a chapter book series, which, those are great too, but like the picture books have richer vocabulary, and they have, a beginning, a middle, and end story that you can read in, one sitting so easily. And then also we all became book critics. So, well, she didn't want to read the book out loud, but then we could all discuss the book. Did we like it? Why did we like it? Do we want more books like that? What made that book great? Or, even to point out words, or, wonder about, that person's situation, and, cause us to go on a journey to learn more about that country, or, so it was like a good jumping off point. And my kids would literally be like, okay, go to the library and bring back, 10 more books that were kind of like that one. Don't bring back any bad books, like this one that we didn't like.
So Mia, honestly, this is so powerful in terms of sense making. So we'll come on to sense making at the end. So perhaps we take a little bit of a backtrack. First of all, into motherhood. What do you love most about being a mum? I know you've created this powerful piece, but you personally being a mum, what do you love most?
Well, I think like when I was, like you're pregnant and you're thinking like, okay, what are the 1 or 2 things I want to focus on for my kids? Like, what is the most important things? And I remember thinking, okay, if my kids are just confident people and they are risk takers, then that kind of solves a lot of issues. You know what I mean? Like if they're confident, they won't be bullied, and if they take risks, they'll kind of explore and find their own way. And so I think what I love most about being a mom, now that I'm like staring down empty nesting, the meaning of empty nesting is that like just watching my kids become their own person, and like really like ready to take off into the world, to the point where they're so proud to say like, we don't need you. And like sometimes it's actually a little sad, because like my senior now is applying to school like early, so her deadlines are in November, and she's so proud to say like, I didn't need you for anything for my applications. Okay. I just want you out of it. Like all I do is ask you for your credit card, because I need to pay the fees, and but I don't want you involved, and I did it all myself, and I totally handled it. And, like I did drive her a little bit, to get to like, portfolio reviews or whatever, or visit schools, but she by and large she did everything on her own. And, that's great. And it's also like, I guess you're ready to go out in the world and you don't need me. And
apart from financial independence, it's independence, but the financial independence still to come.
Yes. Although my kids started their own business, and now they're like,
Kudos,
we're so positive, and we don't even need you to fund us anymore.
So I don't know if they get that from you, because I know that you started your own company after Harvard, didn't you? So So you had a couple of phases in your life. You launched I've forgotten the name of the company, but you're one of the kind of hash 12 Fortune 500 startup companies, right? You founded your own company.
So I actually started it when I was in college. So a junior in college. I just turned 20.
Okay.
My father had died like 3 weeks prior, and so I was like, initially I two friends were starting a company, and they're like, we want you to join us, and I was like, I can't, I have to like study for school. But then after my father passed away, I was thinking, yeah, maybe that would be a good idea because I need to make money now. And so we started this company. Its initial name was MacTemps because we were doing typesetting on our Macintosh computers, and we were renting out our laser printer, and then it evolved into a temporary staffing company that sent people out into the workplace, and then we rebranded into Aquint, which
that's Aquint.
Yeah, because we were no longer just Macintosh, or just temporary, and like 6 years into it, I think I was like a first year of business school, we made the Inc. 500 list for fastest growing private companies in the U.S. We were 12th on the list, and we grew at an average rate of 5,000% a year, and that seemed like a million years ago, because now, like, our company's like nearly 30 years now, and
but now your kids are starting their own businesses even before they've got into college.
Yeah, I see it because my kids, my oldest one had this idea of, because they're very environmentally conscious, they're like, they were going to upcycle clothes and re-dye them using a Japanese shibori indigo technique.
Wow.
And then get their friends to model and just do very beautiful, styling and photography, and then sell the clothes. And it was, kind of this, they kind of said it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's, whatever, and then they started doing it and started to take off, and every day there's something exciting happening, and it does remind me of my early days when we first started MacTemps. Now we have like some competition of peers, which we had 3 classmates in college that were competitors, and kind of this business that's taken on a life of its own. And now my 15-year-old, who is kind of like the finance person for that company, she's having trouble figuring out accounting because, of course, she's never had it. And, I literally went back to business school because I was like, I can't read my own, balance sheet or, income statement. I don't understand it. Like, I know we made money, but I don't even I can't even find it on these, financial statements.
So she's schooling herself in the business.
Yeah, so it is funny because then the book that I use that's out of print, I just handed to her to learn about accounting, and then my kids are saying like, yeah, all that stuff you talked about, starting your own business. They're like, yeah, it actually kind of sank in because we're listening, like we're limiting the number of partners, and we're reinvesting all the money that we make, and kind of the things that I just sort of story after story when they ask me. It's pretty amazing to watch them apply it. But again, they don't really look for advice from me, very rarely.
Okay.
Usually we're just like, we got it covered, it's going really well, Occasionally they'll say like, what would you do in this situation? But it's like, it's their own journey. So
where do you think that they get that from, or where? I mean, there's a confidence that that comes with doing that and just going into launching your business and then going ahead with it. Where do you think that's come from? I mean, obviously you have a similar past, but is there anything else that you think could have stemmed from?
I know, like my oldest one is like very creative, and the middle one has always been business oriented. And so like by the time, like when she was 6, she asked me the difference between simple interest and compound interest, and 7 she asked about franchises versus company owned. So she's always had this thirst for how to become a billionaire, and what is it when you own your own business, and how do you grow a business. And so while she had sort of combined their strengths and being forced to work together, because I kind of think what is making this company really grow. But it's also, a lot of times just being able to get along and make decisions together that whole give and take, it's not so much your business drive, but how you work with people.
Okay.
So watching them navigate that has also been, it's just been a lot of fun for me as a mom.
And so when you became a mum, so this was, the company was even in Harvard, it was in that college times. When you became a mum, was there anything that changed, that redefined you? Because you took this chapter move into looking at all these resources which were useful to you and your experience, but is there anything that changed for you, that redefined you as a mother?
Well, I mean, I was the breadwinner for my oldest. And then when my second child was born, my husband said, if I have to stay home with 2 kids, I'll be forced to leave you. Because it was just so hard. And so we switched roles. So he became the breadwinner, and I became the stay-at-home mom for the second and the third. And it wasn't until my third child was in 5-day-a-week preschool, which was still only half days, that I was just like, God, I need to do something else. And that's when I started the blogging as well. Just I needed some sort of sense of like concrete accomplishment, which you don't get from making more mac and cheese or doing more laundry or picking up toys.
Okay, so I mean, it was a role change, but then it was you needed something to have that sense of accomplishment. So there were 2 factors.
And for me, because I was always in marketing, and my company was now also placing marketing professionals, I wanted to explore social media marketing and kind of learn what that was all about. And I'm a person who learns more by doing than reading.
Okay.
So blogging and social media was sort of my way also to kind of keep a toe in the water and kind of stay abreast on what was going on in marketing, from this kind of new phenomenon that was really a game changer, which was, social media.
Mm-hmm. And what challenges did you face? So getting all of these resources, which now, I mean, they look amazing, but obviously getting that together there must have been challenges. Did you face any challenges of pulling everything together into one place?
Well, it's more just, trying to carve out time,
Okay, so time.
Trying to, you're home with 3 kids and the kids are busy, and, I'm doing this blog that, literally the first month it made 69 cents. And so my kids and my husband are like, like 69 cents. Like, I don't think that's really going to be much of a income generator for you there, dear. But just, the blog is like a journey that shifts and changes, but the hardest part is just you're just sort of doing it blindly, without a lot of feedback, without a lot of followers, and there's a lot of times you're just saying, like, why do I even spend all this time? Like, why am I even doing this? Like, does anyone even care? Or, like, what is the point?
So what changed?
I think just like every now and then you get like a comment, or you would get like a social media, like someone would tweet back and say like, thank you so much, that I really thought that this was great, or that really helped me, or just like the tiniest interactions from a reader, even a single reader. Okay. I would say like, you made my day, but literally it's like you made my day and you made me want to keep doing it, because otherwise, there's a sense of like, I'm just doing this into a black void, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if it even matters. I can do it for myself. Like, I like content creation. I like that I'm learning, but you don't always know. Like, doesn't even matter, Okay. So, thank you to anyone who ever interacted with me.
They kept you going.
It really did,
And what opportunities did you grab? I know you talked about the Literacy Day, but what opportunities did you grab that came up that really helped you on this purpose?
Well, I think, I think I became an activist by being a blogger and having a voice, because, like I would sort of write a blog post. Like I was literally looking for banned books one year, maybe 5 years ago. And I came across Dr. Seuss and found like these racist political cartoons that he drew before he became a children's book author that were aimed at Japanese Americans, of which, that's half my heritage on my mother's side. And my mother was forced out of her home because of, Japanese internment. And it was shocking to me because, here we had been reading Dr. Seuss. I grew up on Dr. Seuss, to know that he was a white supremacist and a racist. So, so I did a post because it was shocking to me. I didn't think anyone knew. And I would put it up there, and maybe like, a handful of people would be like, oh, I didn't know either. And it, just sits there. And then when the National Education Association's Read Across America, he had been their, primary, he had been basically the mascot for 20 years. And I would complain on social media to them. I would put it on the Facebook, and nothing happened. And then last year, maybe I tweeted more aggressively, like, is Read Across America a whites-only event? And, all of a sudden, like 1,000 hits to that one post. And then media inquiries, so Associated Press and New York Times, just because of that one post. And then Katie Ishizuka from the Conscious Kid Library reached out to me and said, I'm half Japanese too, and my Japanese side family was also interned at Minnetonka, and, I would like to really convince the NEA not to use him. And so she wrote this pretty amazing analysis of his works. And, single-handedly, they decided, because of that, they were going to move away in this upcoming year completely, and they have this diversity children's book calendar.
That's amazing.
Dr. Seuss books for the first time ever. And then I think because of that piece that she did, this, really detailed analysis of Dr. Seuss books and the racism within it, it really sparked all the national news media that people have seen in the last 2 months. And so I would say, like, sometimes it feels like you're talking to yourself in a void, but just having it out there and having it be searchable by Google, so people, if they want to find it, they can find it, and just being the one to raise your hand to say, I'm going to stand up to this, and you can use my name. I'm not a faceless person, and here is my education journey of how I learned about it. If you choose to learn about it yourself, because it's difficult. It's difficult to take an icon like Dr. Seuss, and he's such a beloved figure, and to put now this shadow upon him that says, oh my God, he's a racist, and like, look at these books, like Horton Hears a Who, you feel like, oh, that's just like an anthem for, anti-bullying, but then you can also say it's the story about white savior, and just that, the white savior, oh my God, you're like, oh my God, I can see it in a totally different way that makes me view that book differently forevermore. Yeah. And so, so it's, so I think that was a big realization that bloggers with even small blogs can have a big voice. And then also it opened the door for me for publishing. So I started trying to get books published and have 3 books sold this year. And I think it's 100% because this blogging journey and learning about children's books.
Okay. And then, so we're coming back to actually tools and advice, and so what tools and advice have you found useful? And I know you went through the process of finding the pictures books. We started with at the beginning actually, but are there any tools or advice that you find useful as a mother? And you've even created your own now, your own books. But what would you share with other mothers on this summit?
Well, one thing is like just being a mom, a stay-at-home mom, or a work-at-home mom, or even a mom that works full-time out of the house. It's a lonely job.
Yeah.
So I would say creating a community of like-minded people is, I would say critical. Just to feel connected, to get advice. And so it was funny because my community ended up being this very small group of moms who wanted to learn how to box. And so
wow, okay.
Literally at the back of the school, like waiting for the kids to come out of school, like the pickup moms. One of my friends was like, my brother has been boxing in the Bronx, and I really want to learn, so let's all learn together, because I know you used to kickbox like 1,000,000 years ago, and so you go set it up. And so, like, this group of moms, like 6 of us, about 6 years ago we started, and, we were sort of like staring down menopause, and so we were all sort of going through this, like, oh my God, like, why am I gaining weight? And, and we had, our kids were a little bit older, so we had a little bit of time to ourselves. And so we set up this group and started boxing together. It went from 1 day a week to like 2 or 3 times a week, and several of the group went on to do charity boxing matches where they fought opponents in a ring.
Okay.
And I think just doing something together where we're all like beginners and trying to learn. But boxing, I found personally, is a very empowering tool. It was just, it made me feel, because I learned how to spar. And so I would spar people in the ring who were bigger and more experienced and younger and much better boxers, and, get hit in the head and, get the wind knocked out of me. And I think as someone who then saw, injustices, it just made me braver,
Okay.
So it was like, I'm not scared of you. I'll fight you in the ring. You come to my gym, I'll fight you. You're this faceless troll. It's so easy to, to be faceless and but do that to me face to face. I challenge you.
Yeah.
And so in many ways it was a community, and it was also, self-empowerment. And I had my kids boxing and kickboxing, and for me it was like an anti-bullying tool, because it gives you confidence and also knows that you can handle yourself if you're threatened.
Okay.
And so, that was one, I would say. And I think also just, I think the internet too, it's just learning, going back to when you were in school and knowing that you can teach yourself, so you can find tools, whether it's you ask someone that you know or you ask someone that you don't know because they did a YouTube video on, how to, do something technical to your blog. Now your blog is broken, but I would say just to, give yourself challenges where you don't know the answer, and then being forced to find solutions, whether you literally have to call, GoDaddy and sit on help desk for an hour crying.
Oh, we've all been there. Well,
but then at the end of it, you're like, oh my God, I just figured out how to make a website. It was extremely painful. It felt like I was, shoving, nails under my nail, but I know how to do it now. And even those things, I would write it down, put it in the blog post in case I ever have to redo it, because you know what I mean? You realize that knowledge is so valuable and so hard won, and it makes you generous to share because so many people were so generous to help you. And so,
yeah, but the thing is, the world moves on so quickly, so then there's a new way to do it. So, right. I've definitely been there. So what's your focus now? You've done the 3 books. Any more books in the pipeline, or what's your focus now? And especially as you're going to be, getting towards the empty nester phase, what's your new focus?
Yeah, so I've been writing, the first book I wrote was How to Coach Girls, and I wrote it with he's literally my mom friend, who was my neighbor around the corner, whose daughter, sort of is like a sister to my daughter, to my daughters. They're not the same age, but they think of themselves as sort of pseudo sisters. And she just happened to be the Boston College women's head coach for soccer. And so, just in spending time with her, we realized, it's so different. Just my girls had played a lot of sports and had varying, experiences. And so, so then I found some startling statistics that 70% of kids, both boys and girls, quit organized sports before the age of 13.
Okay.
And girls quit sports 6 times the rate of boys. And so, I was like, I know my friend has the answer, because she's, like a women's sports psychology major in college, and, just been a very successful coach, and just knowing her, how she treats her team, she's sort of, a very nurturing figure.
So this is the new book?
Yeah, this is the first book that's coming out in March.
Okay.
And then
wow.
I took a children's book writing class, which is my local, community ed class at my high school. And the book that I wrote during that experience, I threw it into the Lee and Low Voices competition. And it didn't end up winning, but they offered editorial support. And then after 3 or 4 rounds of editing, with the editors at Lee and Low, they acquired it. And so this picture book about sumo and sort of a brother and sister, one does sumo, one does aikido, so sort of a battle, and also kind of learning more about the culture of Japan through sumo and relation to the Shinto religion. That's going to come out in spring of 2019. And then my daughter was taking like a pre-college 6-week course at Rhode Island School of Design, and so she was like, "Oh, my final is an alphabet book, A to Z," and I'm just trying to think of ideas of what to do for it. And she threw out Asian American activism, this and that. And I thought, oh, I'll just help her out. I'll just like assemble the list for her, So I worked on it for a few days. I was like, here, I assembled an A to Z list of Asian Americans, and she was like, I can't use your list. Like, that's my fun. I have to do it all myself. And I was like, oh, sorry. I just, because like you're literally getting 3 hours of sleep. I just wanted to help you out.
Yeah.
And she, no, I have it covered. And then I was like, oh, that would be a good book because every name for, Asian American, like History Month, I looked for books or role models. And there are so few, and there's none. And, if you looked, that are not, like less, like, more recent immigrants like Hmong or Lao or, Burmese or Malaysian, Indonesian. And so I wrote a book, and I that was just acquired.
Okay. So
yeah,
actually,
I have a couple more out, and I'm.
That's very inspiring because actually you brought the representation back into what you're doing. So I've got 3 final questions. One is, what experience do you want your kids to have for them to, when they grow up, to make sense of the world? What experiences have you made sure that they've had, or making sure that they have?
I think it's it's kind of more about sort of letting them sort of find their passion.
Okay.
And so giving them, like, following their lead. Like, for example, my husband played golf in college and played professionally in the mini tour. And God, he would love for one of his kids to pick up golf and, become very competitive in it. But he totally held off because he sort of waited for them to say, take me to the golf course, give me a golf lesson. Mm-hmm. Because that's not something you can force on a child. Like, you must love the sport. And so sometimes, like, your kids are like really good at something, and you're like, oh my God, you're such a great, whatever, guitar player, but then they don't really care, what I mean? They're like, yeah, whatever, like, I'm not going to practice, or maybe I'll quit, and you're like, that's like killing me because you're, I know you're so talented at that, but you just have to let them. You have to let them find their way, and you have to let them figure out what it is they love and what they care about, even though it's not really what you would have chosen, or what you notice that they're so good at, or you know what I mean. It's
no, totally. I mean, that's one of the things I covered with the mothers. You have to respect people's uniqueness, but also you channel their passions. But it's understanding what each sense-making thing brings and gives to them, but definitely channeling what they love and what they're passionate will ultimately help them be successful.
Right.
So totally.
Okay. And even just giving them the options, because I mean, like, kids in our neighborhood or in our town, like, if you pick a sport and you're like, okay, I love this sport, I'm going to play it in college, it's so easy to lock down to that sport at like 4th or 5th grade and not play anything else because you need to play that sport year round in order to get good enough. And it's sort of also just keeping the door open, like, like, if you want to try this other sport, like, we can sneak it in the, you know what I mean? Like, just, like, I think it's all about choices and exposure. Yeah. And to just keep giving your kids those choices and that exposure, whether it's eating a new kind of, ethnic cuisine, or, you know what I mean, learning through someone else's experiences through a book, or trying something that they kind of want to try, but they don't think they can do it because their schedule's too busy, or they're a tiny bit afraid and they need, a little bit of support to say, it's okay to fail. Like, it's okay to be the worst person at that sport because you're new to it. Like, giving them permission to fail and encouraging failure is probably my biggest emphasis for them, and because that's how I learned as an entrepreneur. Like, that's what we value in our work culture.
For sure.
That failure is a teacher, and failure is a gift, and failure is valuable versus failure is something, you know, that you're ashamed of. And it's really weird that that failure isn't viewed as a more positive tool.
Correct.
And that's that's the one thing that, you know, it's like you never, failure, you either learn or you get better, or, you know, there's no downside, you know, and you know, and kudos to you for trying, because it's all about showing up, you know, it's all about showing up, raising the hand and giving it a go, you know, and if you just keep, I was like, to my girls now, like, if you just keep doing that and you never stop, that's how your business becomes successful. Okay. You just don't stop, you know?
Okay. So second to last question, what's the one thing you wish you could go back and tell pregnant you before becoming a mum?
I think it's just that, you know, like, there's just so many things like you're trying to do and you're trying to juggle that as a mom you have to take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
It's easy to put yourself last, and work-life balance is going to make everybody happier. Once I, as a mom, have work-life balance, and I feel like I'm satisfied, I can spend time on myself. Yeah. And then also just to keep it simple, like, you know, like at the end of the day, it's not, you know, like, you know, from an Asian perspective, like which college you get into, or, you know, getting a perfect GPA or acing a test. It's really about this journey, you know, to have the confidence, to take the risk, to, you know, to just keep, you know, traveling down the journey of, you know, like to learn or to discover or to, you know what I mean, to try things. Okay. And if you never stop doing that, you'll always be successful. You'll always be happy. You know what I mean? Like it's about defining yourself through yourself, not through other people.
Okay. And so finally, is there anything that you want to share back with the audience in terms that you're working on that excites you, where they can connect back with you?
Well, I just want to say Multicultural Children's Book Day is coming up January 27th, and we will give a free diversity book to anyone, parents, librarians, caregivers, guardians, teachers, and all you have to do is just read the book and do a very short, you know, book summary, and you can do it on social media like Facebook or a blog, or you can make a YouTube, you know, very short video, or an Instagram post. Okay. And that's a great way to get a free book. We also have free books for teachers. They just need to sign up, and we have a lot of resources that I just wanted to share. We have a new empathy guide that covers refugees and the immigrant experience, that has activities and a book list and posters, and so I hope everyone will join us.
So there's so much actually on Pragmatic Mum. There's so much resource for people to go to and find. So thank you very much, Mia. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.